don't know how many more years this thing has left, but I can guarantee you it doesn't have another 20 years. Why do short form vertical videos exist? Because of this. Some experts are predicting that the smart glasses are going to replace the smartphone. The very best marketing strategies, they don't just work today, they work tomorrow.
Andrew Murdoch is a YouTube business strategist that elevates brands to new heights. He is the founder of YT Era that helps businesses create educational YouTube content and digital nomad journey that encourages and inspires people to be forward-thinking.
It can be really challenging to combine podcast content with non-podcast content on the same channel. Why? Because it's a completely different viewing experience. You run the risk and potentially split your audience into two. As soon as you split your audience into two, you're in trouble. It should be a very, very fast CTA. Hey, if you think this video is good and you want all of our videos, subscribe. And then you literally get right back into it. The advanced strategy I'm executing on a regular basis is let's dial up the curiosity factor to 11 by increasing some tension. How can we do that? Negative thumbnail.
Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much, guys. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So, I mentioned YT Era, but can you just tell us a little bit more about this agency and how did you become to be a YouTube expert?
Yeah, really great questions. I'll give you the abbreviated version so we can get into the good stuff. But essentially 6 years ago, at the end of 2018, I found myself at rock bottom, and I was in dire straits. I was in a really bad time. I was sleeping on an air mattress, newly separated, had to escape from a very toxic marriage. And life was as worse as you could possibly imagine, at least for me. That was my low point. I've never been there again since, and hopefully will never be there again. So two things helped me completely turn my entire life around. And one of those things was getting addicted to YouTube content. It sounds cheesy, doesn't it? It sounds like a flippin' story, but I'm telling you, that's just what happens. Just because it's cheesy doesn't make it any less true. And I got addicted to just really successful entrepreneurs that hit the record button and pumped out some really fantastic content. And so I would binge watch through these videos. Like I would like get to the point where like I didn't even want to blink, and I felt like my eyes were like bleeding. And one thing led to another, and over a significant amount of time, I was able to just essentially rewire my brain because success leaves clues. And I was able to get my health and fitness right. I was able to get my finances right, but more importantly, I was able to get my mindset right. I started. I wasn't speaking very kindly to myself in those days, as you might imagine. And as anyone who's experienced that dark night of the soul will know that it's not a great place to be. So fast forward, I got into marketing. I was a social media person, and then I was reading between the lines, and I could see what was going on all those years ago. I was like, wait a second, businesses are getting way more performance metrics, and when it comes to things that actually matter to the business's bottom line. They're getting way better KPIs from YouTube than all of these other social media platforms combined. And I know I'm probably pissing off a lot of social media people when I say that, but that was just my experience. And so one thing led to another, and I became a YouTube expert. And I was working as a YouTube consultant for a couple of years. But I do genuinely spend most of my time working with professionals, entrepreneurs, and business owners. Yeah, sometimes a creator will come my way, but I find that they're out of all of the YouTube consultants and coaches and experts out there in the marketplace, by far and away, the vast majority of them are focused on the creator. So creators have tons and tons of support out there. And in my experience, the entrepreneurs and the professionals, they weren't really being supported in the way because they just run across different pain points. There's different challenges, different obstacles. Certain things cross over. There are certain best practices about YouTube marketing that impact both sides. But entrepreneurs is really where I really obsess over, because it was the entrepreneurs that were making really life transforming type of content for me back when I was at my rock bottom. So I was a consultant, and I helped businesses and entrepreneurs get better results via YouTube. But I came across a problem. I realized that in order to have a really successful YouTube channel to support your business, you need two things. You need strategy and you need execution. And without those two things, it's going to be a struggle. I'm just being honest. It's going to be a big struggle. You're going to be throwing spaghetti at the wall, and you're going to be that hamster on the hamster wheel, running your butt off and not really making any forward momentum. So that's when I decided to launch YT Era. We provide a done-for-you YouTube marketing solution for businesses and entrepreneurs and professionals who, they want a YouTube channel. And they want to do it right. But either A, they don't know how to go from 0 to 1. They don't even have a YouTube channel because they literally don't know where to start. So those kinds of businesses typically find us. And then the other businesses who, they have a YouTube channel and they've been active on YouTube, but they're just not getting the performance, or they're looking at their competitors and going, well, how come the competitors kicking butt? Well, like, what are we doing wrong? I mean, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So that's typically when the business owner starts doing some research, and that's when they'll come across us and they start engaging in our services. So I'm passionate about helping businesses and entrepreneurs that have products and services that change the world. And because I love those businesses that focus on health and wealth specifically, because let's think about this logically. For instance, like I'm a marketer. I've been a marketer for a long time. That means I have access to heaps and heaps of data that gives me an unfair advantage. So from a broad strokes perspective, let me ask you guys this question. When you're searching for content, where are you going to go?
YouTube.
YouTube or ChatGPT?
Oh, wow. Okay. You guys are the first ones to give me that answer. Most people say Google when they want to search. But
that was yesterday. No, for me, it's YouTube when I want to actually see how it's done. It's ChatGPT when I want the fast answer, and then not have to sort through results, which is what you get from Google. So
really great point. Really great point. So Google is likely still the number one answer, but like you guys, I also go to ChatGPT, Claude, or Perplexity, right? Yeah. But have you noticed that when the intent shifts away from search and goes more towards learn, most people just skip all of those and they just go straight to YouTube. Mm-hmm. How do I write and sell a book? How do I plan my retirement? How do I lose 5 pounds in the next 5 weeks? Like those kinds of questions, most people are going to YouTube because YouTube is the world's content resource library. YouTube is free university. And so that's why I do what I do. And that's what we do.
Awesome. And I have to ask one more question with that though, too, because you do it you living where now?
I'm a digital nomad, and I'm currently coming to you from San Jose, Costa Rica right now.
All right, got it. And is the decision that you made for the business you're in also to support that digital nomad lifestyle, or did it just work out that way?
Really great question. And yes. So I was a remote worker, a remote employee first, and then flashing back to my rock bottom moment. I was living in Vancouver, Canada at the time, and everyone's normally shocked when I talk about this, but Vancouver, Canada is actually one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in. Mm-hmm. And because I was working remotely, I was like, wait a second, one of the fastest ways I can improve my financial situation is to reduce my expenses, which meant leave Vancouver. And then very quickly, leave Vancouver became leave Canada. And funny thing is, I left Canada in early 2019, and my friends thought I was crazy. And here we are recording this in January 2025, and all of those friends are now texting me going, how do I do what you do, Andrew? Yes, to answer your question, my entire business, all of my team members were 100% remote. We are a remote first entity. Yes.
Awesome. And then I have to ask, since you said Costa Rica now, is this like, how long do you stay typically when you travel around to these different locations?
Oh, I'm a Costa Rican resident, just got my driver's license as well. However, having said that, as a digital nomad, I've lived in Canada, the United States, Mexico, Spain, England, Scotland, Panama, and Costa Rica. I bounce around a lot, but Costa Rica would be my home base. Like I'm in an Airbnb right now. I'm homeless. It's a chosen homelessness.
Yeah. Awesome. There's something freeing about that.
Yeah. Kind of pivoting, let's talk, you mentioned about strategy and execution. So let's talk a little bit about strategy and maybe start from the front. And let's talk about how does somebody pick what's the right type of content or niche that they should go into? Is that based on the business? If it's a creator, what do they do? Like, can you give us a little bit of your perspective on this?
Yeah, I love that. So if I'm talking to an entrepreneur or a business owner, we don't typically spend a lot of time on this because they've already chosen their industry. But if I'm speaking to a creator who's literally at square one and really trying to define what kind of business that they want to launch, and they're trying to set themselves up for success, different people say different things, but I really like that Venn diagram that is all over online. It's the 3 Ps: profitability, proficiency, and passion. So profitability, pretty self-explanatory. If you're picking one of the best examples that was shared with me is that this person launched like a resume optimization business, but unfortunately realized that it wasn't a very sustainable business because he's literally targeting people who don't have work. So that immediately reduces your profitability, right? So How do you determine what's profitable? Well, pick a niche where there's a lot of other players in it is a pretty safe bet. If you have competition, that's a good thing. That means people are making money. That means people are spending money for that product or service. So I think that's probably the most important P. Obviously, all 3 Ps are important, but profitability is clear, right? Passion, let's go to passion next. There's always going to be bad days. Ah, man. Oh, yeah. Anytime you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, it ain't a straight line, people. It's not a straight line. Take it from an entrepreneur who's, I haven't had a job in many, many years now. And you want that passion component. You want to pick an industry that you're passionate about because you need something to get you out of bed in the morning, even on those tough days. And hear me on that. Hear me on that. So it's got to be profitable. It's got to be something that you would do for free, except, you got to eat at the end of the day, right? And then proficiency. You got to be good at what you do in order for someone to pay you to do it, right? Now, and if you're picking a brand new industry, something that you don't have a lot of experience in, something that I like to recommend people do is find a job, a low-level, entry-level job in that industry, and now you're getting paid to learn that new skill set, right? And if you can't do that, and you're already working somewhere else, guess what? That's what evenings and weekends are for. Get studying, jump on YouTube videos, and get good.
What do you see like the trends are around long form and short form content? Because there seems to be a lot of chatter around that. So I've seen people talk about, well, make long form because you can engage people longer. You might increase your watched hours, but then seems like YouTube really, at least the algorithm seems to be pumping the short in front of you all the time. So how would someone pick how to get started? Which one should they make?
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of debate, and I have some very strong opinions, about this. I think out of all the questions I get asked these days on podcasts and just in business meetings and what have you, is this very question. It's a great question. So I have the strong opinion that the very best marketing strategies, they don't just work today, but they work tomorrow. They work next week, next month, next year, because your time, your resources, your bandwidth, these are finite resources. You don't have infinite resources. Nobody does. So I prefer, and this is what I coach my clients and prospects on all the time, I prefer to pick strategies that have a higher likelihood of having that sustainability power. Now, why do I say that? Well, and I'm probably going to piss some people off by saying this. This device in my hands, this thing hasn't been disrupted in give or take 20 years. I don't know how many more years this thing has left, but I can guarantee you it doesn't have another 20 years. It's less than 20 years. 5 years, maybe? I don't know. Why do short form vertical videos exist? Because of this. Let's make no mistake. Some experts are predicting that the smart glasses are going to replace the smartphone. Now, when smart glasses become the new de facto standard, what's going to happen to all those short form content creators? Now, I'm not trying to smash the alert button and scare the bejesus out of everybody. I'm just saying, let's think about this logically. How much longer will short form videos actually be a thing, right? I'm not saying they're going to die. I'm not saying they're going to die tomorrow, but let's think about this logically. There's that. And then also, when you're a YouTube consultant and you have access to multiple YouTube channels at any given time, Evan Carmichael and I have talked about this. I've talked about this with various YouTube consultants. We have an unfair advantage. We have access to a lot of data. And sometimes YouTube will say things, and I understand why YouTube is saying these things, but then you look at the data and it's like, but the data doesn't reinforce what YouTube is telling us. Let me use this as an example. For you watching or listening to this right now, if you're doing long form and short form and you're monetized, you may have noticed that there's a large gap. There's a massive gap in the compensation that you receive from your long form as compared to your short form. The YouTube ad revenue that you receive for short form is substantially less. Now, why is that? The answer is very simple. Not all views are created equal. And because of that, YouTube is compensating you in accordance with the value of those views. Now, why is that? Well, it's because I don't even care if we're talking about YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok. I don't care. I don't care the platform. This is we're talking short form vertical video. Let me ask you this. What is the mental state of the user when they're looking at their device and they're just swiping? What's their state?
Probably not focused and in a rush and just wasting time.
Yeah, wasting time. Maybe they're in bed trying to fall asleep. Just, they're bored, right? And they're not actively picking your content. They're just swiping, and they're at the mercy of the algorithms to decide what that user gets to watch next. And you know what? Here's the thing. Marketers, we're always very careful about using the word guarantee, but there are certain times where I'm comfortable using the guarantee. Even when someone's watching your short, as soon as that user swipes, I guarantee you the next short is not yours. It might be your competitor's. So let's compare that to someone on their homepage, on their smart TV, on any of their devices, and they see your thumbnail. And they go, oh, that's an interesting looking thumbnail. And then they read your title and they go, yeah, that applies to me. And then they click or tap or they select your video instead of everyone else's videos. Compare that mental state, the intent from that, to someone mindlessly scrolling on shorts. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of you short form content creators. You are at a massive disadvantage compared to your competitors who are focusing on long form. That is my opinion.
And, obviously our podcast is a YouTube first podcast. And it's true.
Which is smart, by the way, which is really smart. Good job.
Hopefully that turns out to be true for us too. And it's obviously long form. We go an hour, sometimes even longer for like true long form. We're talking about like documentary style or animated length features. Where do podcasts fall into this mix of long form video from your perspective? I mean, is it still? How easy is it? And I think I'm asking for Michael and I here, to gain an audience and to build an audience. Has it gotten easier, harder? How much should short form content be part of our strategy to try to grow the podcast subscribers?
You know what? Let's start there first, and then I'll work our way backwards. Simply because we just started. We were talking about shorts just a second ago. So you have to be careful. This isn't advice to you or anyone listening to watching this right now, because I can't see your channel. This is not advice. Okay. Let's make that clear. I am not providing advice right now. But if I had access to your channel and I was doing my YouTube geeky mojo, and I know how to analyze the kinds of viewers you're attracting from shorts and compare that to the kinds of viewers because it's a completely different viewing experience. And what we're seeing sometimes is that the shorts are attracting the complete wrong audience. In which case, if I was your YouTube coach, I'd be like, kill these shorts now, and don't even mess with this because you're messing with your discoverability. And that's the single most valuable part of having a YouTube channel is the discoverability. Free traffic, free traffic, free traffic. Okay. So what you could do though, if you didn't want to completely give up on shorts, and lots of big, huge YouTubers have done this, so I'm not telling you anything that ain't true. They just do a second channel for shorts and clips. That's it. Just do a second channel, right? Now, I'm not saying that's the case with you or anyone else. I'm just saying that you have to know how to interpret the data. And if you don't know how to interpret the data, either learn how to do that, go to YouTube Studio and take some courses, read some books, watch some YouTube videos. YouTube videos will teach you how to do this, or hire a consultant. If you just want to fast track, hire someone that's just going to be like, hey, I just need you to take a look at this, tell me what we're doing wrong, and then pay for someone for a consultation. So I think that's pretty clear. I'm not saying shorts are going to be a bad idea. I'm saying it depends. There's a lot of nuance with YouTube. Now, your other question was, how are podcasts? What is the great strategy with podcasts? How do we grow a podcast channel? Well, the good news for you is YouTube is actually the #1 podcast platform in the world. And I know the other podcast platforms hate that, but the truth is they're never going to catch up, because YouTube is the #1 video platform in the world, the #1 podcast platform in the world, the #1 streaming platform in the world. And you get a lot of metrics, like I was just hinting at. You get a lot of metrics, performance metrics on the back end, whereas none of the other podcast platforms have ever figured that out, which boggles the mind. I don't know why they can't. It's clear as the nose on my face that this is important for content creators to analyze the success or failure of their content so they can make better decisions moving forward. It would only make the podcast platforms more valuable to their audience. I don't know why they don't invest in that infrastructure. But even if they did, they're probably not going to be able to catch up to YouTube. So YouTube absolutely should be the primary. You need to optimize you need to think about optimizing your podcast episodes for content for the YouTube platform. And then you can have a VA or someone offshore if you'd like to work with someone offshore to give them your content, and then they can break it up in snackable micro vertical or horizontal content clips and shorts, right? Gary Vaynerchuk popularized this model many years ago, that you got your pillar content, which in this case would be YouTube, and then you give that pillar content to a person on your team or a contractor or a freelancer to create 12 pieces of micro snackable content that you can blast across the other platforms, right? And that would work fantastic. Going the other direction is going to be frictional, expensive, and annoying. Going that direction is the most efficient, effective solution. Alex Hormozi himself, who is arguably the #1 content creator on YouTube when it comes to business owners and entrepreneurs, I heard him recently say, I don't know if this is still true to right now, but I heard him say recently, like 2 months ago, even as recently as 2 months ago, that he doesn't even make shorts. He doesn't. He puts all of his attention and effort into making 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long videos, and then he gives that content to his team, and then they chop it up to make the shorts. Now, at one point in time, I think he used to intentionally make shorts, but he's a smart guy. I think he also figured out that not all views are created equal. Now, they still do shorts, and they still do TikTok and Instagram, and I think they do TikTok and Instagram and all the other stuff. But it's clear that to the business owner, to the person who, like, their time has the highest leverageable component. Like Alex Hormozi, for example, his hourly rate is incredibly high. He's on his way to becoming a billionaire. But he still prioritizes approximately 2 to 3 hours a day making content, and it's always long form. Now, podcasts. I'm not a podcast expert, but I am a YouTube expert. And simply because I'm a YouTube expert, I end up working on a lot of people's podcasts. And you know what we've seen? It can be really challenging to combine podcast content with non-podcast content on the same channel. Why? Because it's a completely different viewing experience. You end up, well, you might run the risk and potentially split your audience into two. As soon as you split your audience into two, you're in trouble. You're in trouble because now that confuses the YouTube machine, data in, data out. And you don't want to confuse the discoverability aspect of your channel, because that's literally 90% of the value that YouTube is giving you, right? So if you see evidence that you've split your channel into two, I would recommend carving that podcast content out and putting it on a separate channel, or carving out the non-podcast content and putting that on a separate channel. There are some certain advanced strategies where it might work. We have one client where we were able to successfully do this. And essentially we did it by treating the podcast content as just a typical long form YouTube video. And it worked amazingly well for our client. But that, again, being a marketer, and because we've done this for so many years, listen, let me be clear. Actually, quantifiers matter. Context matters. I'm the founder of YT Era, the YouTube marketing agency, right? At last time I checked the metrics, our company metrics, over the last little over 3 years, we have created and posted 1,944 videos for our clients. Now, what does that mean? That means we've learned a lot about what works, but more importantly, we've learned a lot about what doesn't work. And if you want to talk about that some more in the next little bit, I'd love to. I think a lot of people get distracted by focusing on things that don't really matter. But yeah, did I answer your podcast question okay?
Yeah, you did. And it's interesting because just a month ago, for all of our audience, we did create a second YouTube channel for shorts, and it's called Founder Bites. So we'll make sure to link at the bottom. So if you're watching this, head over onto Founder Bites to see all of the short content. Getting a little tactical now, I think something that Michael and I have talked a lot in this 2 years of doing this, and it's taken a lot of iteration and trial and error to kind of get to where we are now. But I wish somebody on day one had told us this is what you should do. When you're structuring your video, like when you go from the beginning where it seems to be that first 30 seconds, 60 seconds is so important. And then after for retention, how should someone structure their video to maximize hooking somebody into the video, retention, and getting them to come back?
Okay, I have the perfect answer for you. Are you ready? For you listening or watching this right now, this is definitely a writer downer. So Listen, I'm just a dumb marketer. I love breaking complex systems down into easy to understand frameworks. And depending on the questions that I get, sometimes I have to wear my AI hat, and sometimes I have to wear my human psychology, human behavior hat. And so I developed a very simple 3-step formula that addresses both. And it's super easy to understand. 3 steps. Step 1, get a viewer. Okay. Get a viewer is divided into some subcategories. I call them the 4 T's: topic, title, thumbnail, timing. But your question was more about step 2. So I'm just going to fly back that. If you want to come back to step 1, we can talk about step 1. But out of all of those 4 T's, the topic is the single most important. Okay. I don't care if you have the world's best thumbnail and title. If you picked a boring topic, no one's going to click. Sorry. That's just how the world works, right? The topic is the single greatest, most important thing that deserves the most of your attention. Then you want to focus on that packaging, the title and thumbnail. And then the timing obviously comes into play as well. Like for instance, for right now, if you had an opportunity to, I don't know, invite a guest on your podcast that maybe wants to talk about apps coming out of China that just completely demolishes and destroys the entire stock market, might be a good topic right now. Just saying. Depending on the kind of audience that you want to attract, obviously, right? You want to keep that in mind too, the kind of viewer avatar you want to attract. So that's step 1. Step 2 is what your question is actually referring to, which is keep the viewer. Great, congratulations, you achieved step 1. You got the viewer. Now you want to compel that viewer to stick around and watch all the way into the very end of your video as much as possible and increase the retention, as you mentioned. I break step 2 into 2 halves of the same coin. There's content quality, everything coming out of our mouths, and then production quality, how easily the viewer can see and hear us, okay? So your question was leaning more towards the content quality, so let's focus on that. Now, there are pros and cons of podcasts. Lots of pros and cons of podcasts, just like there's pros and cons of non-podcasts, right? You don't really know how the conversation is going to go when you hit that record button. And typically, the intro of the guest can kind of slow things down, right? Especially when we want to put the viewer front and center. The reason why my 3-step process, by the way, it's called the viewer's journey. And there's a reason why I named it that, because if you don't put the viewer first, nothing else that we do matters. And I mean that. And I'm not the guru here. I'm not the famous person. In fact, and I'm going to challenge you on this, and I'm going to follow up on you guys to see if that you actually take my advice. I wouldn't put my name in the title. There's not enough people searching for my name. It's not. I don't have a huge ego. I don't have a problem saying that. But if your title says something like, "This YouTube strategist just blew our minds," then episode whatever, you don't even have to put the episode number in the title, by the way. We've done a lot of testing on that, and I don't think it really adds much value. But look at, I used him as an example, so I'm going to come back to him. Alex Hormozi doesn't even use his own damn name on YouTube, and people are searching for his content all the time. His titles will say, "Business owner reveals," "Investor says," so success leaves clues. I wouldn't use your guest names unless you're if you have Dr. Jordan Peterson, okay, use his name. But you know what I'm trying to say, for the vast majority of people out there that you interview, I wouldn't include their name. And then if you're working with a post-production team and you have an editor, either you yourself or train your editor to find that soundbite, find that compelling, shocking, mind-boggling, super valuable soundbite that really ties the whole episode together and grabs someone's attention, and move that to the very beginning of the video. It's vitally important. You know how important it is to hook the viewer. Critically important. And I look at that first 10, 20, 30 seconds as kind of like the movie trailer. Haven't you noticed that these huge Hollywood movies that are hundreds of millions of dollars, they still spend like $150 million on the freaking trailers and the marketing of these things? Because they know if they don't market the project, they're not going to get butts in the seats. So you as podcasters, you want to think about that as in the same way. You want that hook to serve as kind of like a trailer and to kind of tease the viewer and say, hey, this is what you're in for. You're going to want to stick around for this one. Hey, if you've got a YouTube channel, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this one because Andrew dropped some, but you're not going to, you're not going to use my name. You're going to use the sound bite, probably from something that I said that maybe blew both of you away and thought, shit, I never heard that before. Or and just know that things, you'll really hook someone's attention. It's even better, by the way, if you use the soundbite towards the beginning of the episode, at the very beginning of the episode, and the soundbite kind of cuts off right before it gets to like the really juicy part, because it's annoying for the viewer, and we know that we're kind of pissing off the viewer a little bit, but we're just saying like, hey, if you stick around and you will be rewarded if you give us your attention, right? Always put the viewer first. As soon as you become distracted and you put your own agenda in that priority seat, you've lost.
What's your thought on whether it's a podcast or any type of horizontal video where you could do this in instead of vertical, call to actions to remind people to subscribe to the channel? I've seen, being consumers of YouTube, you see so many versions of this. Just recently, Michael and I decided we're going to try one of those out. Hope maybe we'll try it first time on this episode. But just curious, what's your thought on the call to action, and how should somebody, in a non-intrusive way, kind of remind somebody, hey, if you like this stuff, click below?
Yeah. So another question that I get frequently, and I have gone down this rabbit hole. You know how I mentioned earlier that not all views are created equal? Not all engagement signals are created equal. We have positive engagement signals. We have negative engagement signals. And make no mistake, YouTube is tracking everything. YouTube is measuring everything a viewer does and everything a viewer doesn't do. So have you ever watched a YouTube video and the creator literally asked you to do 12 different things? Did you do any of those things?
Probably not.
Probably not. I know I don't, because I just feel like, why are you giving me homework? Why are you telling me to do? Like, you're not my boss. You're not my manager. Like, why are you telling me? Especially people who ask me to like hit the subscribe button and I'm like two seconds into the video. Like, no. So let's talk about what you can do. After the years and years and years it's taken me to research this stuff, I've really come to the conclusion at this time, this is my opinion at this time, there are 4 CTAs that actually matter. There's only 4. Doing any more than 4, you're going to frustrate and overwhelm the viewer. And I'm not saying you have to do all 4 in every video, but you would certainly want to pick from these 4. And if you feel comfortable squeezing all 4 into the same video, then albeit. Any good marketer is going to tell you to test at the end of the day, right? So the first CTA, I don't think should happen until approximately 1/3 of the way to 1/2 of the way through the video. And the first CTA would be exactly what you said. Ask the viewer to subscribe. It should be a very, very fast CTA. Hey, if you think this video is good and you want all of our videos, subscribe. And then you literally get right back into it. I'm talking like 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds tops. Get that CTA across. Do not slow down the pace. So in your guys' situation with the podcast, you might just want to pre-record that ahead of time and then just have your editor kind of slip it in between, at around the 1/3 to the 1/2 mark. Because if your viewer is still watching 1/3 or halfway through, you have now provided that person enough value, and now it's okay to ask the viewer to do something. Asking the viewer to commit to something before you've given any value, that's insane. And I know some really huge YouTubers that do this, and because they're already huge and successful, they just keep doing it. And then these poor, younger, smaller YouTubers are like, well, so-and-so does it. I'm like, yeah, you're not so-and-so. Sorry. Right? Like, yeah, I know. I'm getting all fired up now. Saw Michael smiling there. I'm getting all fired up, guys, because I love this stuff. So that's the first CTA that I coach my clients on all the time. And then after that one, not at the end. Do not save this CTA for the end. We have 2 important ones at the end, and we don't want to crowd those. Before you get to the end, maybe 10 minutes before the end or what have you, that's when, if you like, you could include a CTA for someone to comment below. But a lazy CTA would be hey, comment below. The viewer's going to be like, why? Why? Again, you're putting your own agenda in front of the viewer's value. Don't ever do that. It depends on the conversation that you're having with your guest, obviously. But you may, so we're talking about YouTube marketing. So you may want to insert a really quick CTA saying, hey, what was your main takeaway from these YouTube tips, and which one are you going to apply to your YouTube content program? We want to know. Actually show interest in your audience. I know, crazy idea, right? Actually show interest and making sure that you're adding value to them. So that would be an example of one. You could literally comment on your own videos, and you're essentially coaching your community on the kinds of comments that you're looking for. Whenever you have a commenter leave a really great comment and you want more of those kinds of comments, maybe you should pin their comment, because that would be a way for you to reward good behavior. Because you just saw someone leave a really insightful, very valuable, you know what? This person always leaves comments on our videos and they love our content. Let's pin their comment. Let's give them some more visibility. Let's give them some accolades, because then your other audience members will notice that, and they'll very quickly see the kinds of comments you're looking for. So there's a few tips for you. Now let's fast forward to the very end of the video. You don't have to use both of these CTAs, but I would find it very unfortunate if you get to the end of the video and you don't do either of these. You've wasted a valuable. Let's use some sales terminology. If the viewer who lands on your channel, your content for the very first time, if that's a cold viewer, by the time they get all the way to the end of your episode, like you said, you guys do a lot of long form content. You're asking the viewer to spend maybe an hour or longer with you. Well, then when they get to the end of that's no longer a cold viewer to you. That's that's a hot, warm viewer. Guess what metric YouTube pays very close attention to? Returning viewers. How many of those new first-time viewers are you successfully converting into repeat returning loyal viewers? You know, one of the easiest ways you could do that, include a CTA at the end of your video saying, hey, now that you've learned about how you can use YouTube to grow your business, maybe you should watch this video, or not, don't say maybe, watch this video next because you should learn a lot more about SEO. Or watch this video next because you want to learn a lot about creating the perfect lead magnet for your prospects. Because now you're giving a very specific CTA. Again, you're not being lazy. You're giving a very specific CTA to the viewer to stick around, and you're trying to compel that viewer to consume multiple videos in a single session. You're daisy chaining the videos together. And that's what you want to do, because YouTube pays very close attention to that. I can tell you, been doing this a long time, if you can convince viewers to watch multiple videos in a single session, the next time that viewer opens up YouTube on any of their devices, the chances of your content being recommended to that viewer go up dramatically, because YouTube is trying to keep people on platform. And if you were successful at keeping a viewer on platform for multiple videos, YouTube is going to reward you by shining a giant light on you by getting you more free viewers. So that's CTA number one. And if you're comfortable, that's more for YouTube than it is for you, but it is for you. The second CTA is more for you, more for your business. I like to get that name, get that email address from my clients. Because the two strongest assets for any business out there, make no mistake, at least according to this is my opinion, but you want a YouTube channel for discoverability, visibility, credibility, authority, reach, influence, all of those amazing attributes that YouTube provides so well. And then you want an email list to retarget and nurture and support and develop that relationship with those users, right? So how do we get them off YouTube and get their name and email address? Well, give them a free lead magnet, give them a free resource, something that's extremely valuable, quick to consume, and solves a specific pain point. Ideally, it solves a specific pain point that leads directly into whatever your main core offer is. That is an exceptional lead magnet, and you're growing your email list. So there you go. Those are the only 4 CTAs that matter.
I know, earlier you were talking about your kind of steps, and step 1 was more about the title, the thumbnail, like get people to click. So I have 2 questions. One, can you give us kind of best practice around how do you get people to click? Yeah. And then 2 is just more of a tactical metric question. What is a good click-through rate percentage? I see a lot of things out there on the internet, but I don't know what a success look like.
Gotcha. I'm going to work my way backwards again here. So when you're comparing your CTR with other people's CTR, you want to be careful, because apples need to be compared with other apples. And also something to be mindful of is that your CTR, your click-through rate, typically, not always, but I'm talking 98% of the time, will have an inverse relationship with the number of impressions. Impressions are actually more important. I pay more attention to the impressions than I do to the CTR. For instance, when your impressions blow up and go up, then your CTR will go down because your content is being served to a colder audience. Like someone could have a 20% CTR and only have 100 impressions. Compare that to Mr. Beast, who I don't have access to Mr. Beast's channel, but the people who've told me certain things have said, Mr. Beast could potentially only have a 2% CTR, and most people are like, I got way more than 2%. I got way more than 2% CTR. I'm like, yeah, but he's got billions of impressions. Right. So
yeah.
Like context matters. Context matters, right? So I mean, I work with entrepreneurs and business owners. I'm happy with anything over a 4% CTR, but nuance matters, context matters. I'd have to compare that with the impressions to actually give you true insight, but I wanted to give you a good number. Okay. So how to pick topics, how to get people to click. Really great question. It's the beginning. Let's start there. It's a good place to start, right? there's a number of ways for you to determine topic. You literally just paying attention to trends is a fantastic way to isolate which kind of guests you want to invite onto your show to talk about things that are just trending and matter to people right now. That alone, it would be a slam dunk for you guys. If you go to YouTube, use incognito mode so that your search and watch history doesn't influence the search results. Yes, Google did get in trouble with a lawsuit about that with tracking, but that's still the best tool that we have. So go to incognito mode, go to YouTube, and just type in a keyword or search term that you would like to discuss or have a guest about. And then the autocomplete, that drop-down menu that will pop up, the autocomplete will show you exactly what people are searching for and watching on YouTube right now. I'm a big believer in just using YouTube. Just go to the horse's mouth. Sure, there's a lot of free and paid tools out there, but autocomplete is free and you're getting it right from the source. So let's just let's just believe it. And then reading your comments section, but more importantly, maybe to keeping a close eye on the comments section of some of your competitors' YouTube content, and then just using AI to analyze the comments, look for certain wording that pops up over and over again. Then you'll have, so if you do any one of those three things, all three of those things, you'll absolutely pick topics that resonate and people will be interested to click on. Now, packaging. Let's talk about packaging. I don't think we're gonna have enough time to discuss timing. We'll see, but packaging is really important, and I'm gonna share a really advanced strategy with you right now. YouTube is a fantastic platform for discoverability, but you are constantly being judged. Your content is constantly being judged based off of its packaging, thumbnail, and title. The thumbnail is essentially a graphic, an image that represents the content that's contained in the video. So you don't want to trick the viewer. Do not trick the viewer. If you put something on the thumbnail that doesn't actually pertain to what's in the video, you will piss off the viewer. They will leave quickly, and then you just sent a negative engagement signal to the YouTube AI. And now YouTube doesn't know if your content is good or bad. YouTube is just measuring how long viewers stay with your content. And if viewers sees positive engagement signals, it will serve your content and get you free traffic. If lots of people are leaving within 2 or 3 seconds because you're tricking the viewer, YouTube's going to punish you by not serving your content. Okay, pretty self-explanatory. The advanced strategy that I'm executing on a regular basis on behalf of our clients' channels, and that I like to teach because it just works, is let's dial up the curiosity factor to 11 by increasing some tension, introducing some friction. How can we do that? I like to use a negative thumbnail. Now, what does that mean? What do I mean by a negative thumbnail? Maybe it's a screenshot of your guest's face giving like a concerned look, like something like, I'll do it. I'll pause right now so you can do it. And then like worst mistakes ever, or worst YouTube mistakes, right? And I'm not saying you should do this for this specific episode we're making right now, but for you listening, for you watching this episode, maybe you put some fire on the thumbnail. Maybe put some caution tape on the webinar, on the thumbnail. Maybe use some like red emergency lights like that you would see on a fire truck, because all of those things represent danger. And the human mind, we evolved for what? We evolved for survival, which means we're always on the lookout for danger. So the thumbnail needs to grab attention, and an easy way to do that is have some kind of negative thing on the thumbnail. Now, I said, how can we crank up the curiosity factor by increasing some tension? Pair a negative thumbnail with a positive title. So for this one, if you're using a screen grab of my face giving us a concerned look and like worst YouTube mistakes ever, then maybe the title will console the viewer and say, we wish we learned these YouTube tips from this expert sooner. Something along those lines. Like, it's a positive title paired with a negative thumbnail, because now so you grabbed the viewer's attention. Congratulations. One of the hardest things to do in the world today is hold attention. It's the most valuable asset in the world. And then you're reassuring the viewer, oh, it's going to be okay. We got you. We're going to give you some real value, some real answers in this video. This video, even though it's X amount of time long, it's absolutely worth your time. Right. So there you go. And then, yeah, I don't know if we have time, if you want me to jump into timing, but there's some really solid things there for you guys to use.
I say hit timing.
Timing. So yeah, anything that's trending in the marketplace, as long as so that's an obvious one we already kind of discussed, but being consistent. So there are, how often do you guys release an episode?
Once a week.
Perfect. I love that cadence, because any more than that, you really have to make sure you're not hurting your quality. And any less than that, and you're hurting yourself for 2 reasons. There's an algorithmic reason and there's a human performance reason, right? So the algorithm, every time you upload a video, YouTube is listening to all the words that are coming out of our mouths right now. And that's metadata. And the more metadata that you feed to this data hungry velociraptor, which is what I call the YouTube AI, the better job it has serving your content to the perfect viewer at the perfect time, right? Then there's also the human behavior reason. What did I mention earlier? That one of the metrics that YouTube likes to pay very close attention to is your returning viewers. Well, a viewer only really has a reason to return if you're uploading new content on a regular and consistent basis. So timing, uploading a video every week, you're already doing that, fantastic. Hitting on topics that are trending that people care about right now. Because let's say you're doing a little reconnaissance and you're looking at some of your competitors' YouTube channels and you see all of their successful videos were like 5 to 8 years ago. Well, that's, in my view, that's a dying YouTube channel. If you see a YouTube channel where they have, and you hit that popular button, so you're organizing their videos by most popular, and you see a couple of videos you see a couple of videos that are like millions of views or whatever, like are successful, and they're less than a year old, that is the sign of a very healthy YouTube channel. So yeah, just a couple quick things there for you too. But yeah, timing can come into play. Market updates, like if I'm talking to a financial advisor and I'm getting, hey, listen, before taxes are due, you should be pumping out some tax videos, stuff like that.
Sure, that makes sense.
Market time.
What if you kind of alluded to it earlier, but if there were 2 critical things that you see people are doing that are mistakes that they should not do, you might have got there in a reverse way by telling us what we should do right, but what are the 2 things that you're seeing people do wrong that just drives you nuts?
Yeah, wow, I could do a whole episode just on this. So treating your YouTube channel as if it was social media. Big mistake. One of the reasons why our clients find us is because they have a YouTube channel. And I mean, no disrespect to social media people, none whatsoever. But YouTube is its own beast. It's its own animal. If you want it to work, make sure someone who knows YouTube or understands YouTube is in charge. If you put a social media person in charge of the YouTube channel, then I'm sorry, you're probably going to hurt your channel. So treating it as YouTube, we don't have enough time to go into the details why, but just believe me on that. Embedding your YouTube videos in your website or your blog and trying to get people to watch your videos there instead of going to your YouTube channel, big mistake. Don't do that. What else can I, not engaging with your audience in a positive way, not putting your viewer first, not following a proven system like the viewer's journey, absolutely will cause problems. You know what? Let me say it this way. The you in YouTube, that's not for you. That's the viewer. The you in YouTube is for the viewer. And I think a lot of people mess that up. I had a consultation. Someone hired me for a consultation recently, and she really liked the content that she was making. And I said, okay, well then this is a hobby channel. And she's like, no, I want to grow a business. I'm like, well then you got to start putting the viewer first. She would literally just wake up and just make whatever she wanted. And I'm like, yeah, but the data is showing us that the viewers don't like those topics. You like those topics. The viewer doesn't like those topics. And I'm not like, I'm trying not to sound like the bad guy here, but I'm coaching her saying, I'm just telling you what the numbers are telling me. And these numbers aren't lying.
Yeah.
So ignoring the data is another big mistake, and making content for you is a big mistake.
Awesome. No, it's great points. And I think you fired off some amazing advice and insights in this short period of time. If somebody wants more of this and they want you either, you taking over their YouTube channel or a consultation, where could they find you?
Well, our website is the company name, ytera.com, ytera.com. We have a free community, 100% free, will always be free, will never not be free, that you can find at ytforfree.com. That's the word for, not the number for, ytforfree.com. Great places to reach out and engage and learn from other people. I will warn you, though, that free community is for entrepreneurs and business owners specifically. It's not really optimized for creators. There's lots of great creator groups out there, though. So there's arguably way more communities out there for the creator than there are for the entrepreneur.
There. Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. We will get better at some of the things we took notes around. This outro right now, we were talking about this before. This is where we're like, we should have the thing where we're like, if you enjoyed this, you'll do that. We were like, actually, one thought on that from you. We've thought about recording that after or before? Because it always feels weird when we say that when we're on with another guest, because it's like, well, sorry, hey, yeah, this was nice, but now we're telling him to do that. But probably most guests would get it. But how would you suggest approaching that?
Great question. Just end the interview in a normal way, because it's a lot better. Again, put the viewer first. We're putting the viewer first, and then after your guest is left, now with everything fresh in your mind, just block off that time after your interviews so that the two of you can then go ahead and record the custom CTA that you're going to insert at the end of the video. Yes.
Awesome. That's where we'll be leaning, and really appreciate hearing that, because now we're like, oh, good. That's not a crazy way to go about it. So
Yeah. All right. Well, Andrew, thanks again.
Thank you, Andrew.
And we'll see everybody on the next one.
If you enjoyed this episode, then we think you're also going to enjoy this episode below, where you'll see how Dan built his YouTube channel and turned it into an entire fish business. Yes, fish business. You're going to need to check this out.